Hello, everyone. It's Alex again, and welcome to our SME launch part. So people are still coming in, so let's have a brief introduction. For those who are new to our session today, I'm Alex, Product Growth Director at Rework. This is SME Launch Part, which is a webinar edition where we help fast-grow SMEs operationalize clarity, speed, and alignment, and eliminate all the corporate bureaucracy, framework, etc. Help you grow lean and operate lean. So this webinar brought to you by Rework. Rework.com is a smart and AI-enabled business operation platform which helps you to manage work, for example, project, workflow, expense. We also have CIM domain, people domain, and other growth tools. We have helped more than 9,000 businesses adopt digitalization and streamline operations for efficiency and growth. Back to our webinar. Today episode, we are coming to a very specific but also very helpful and practical topic in operations, which is RACI, RACI. And we will make it practical, how SMEs apply that and build ownership at scale. So thank you for taking time to join us today. This is an open conversation, so drop your questions anytime into a Q&A section or a box chat. We will tackle as many as we can at the end of the webinar or during the webinar. Now, as promised, this will be this whole SME launch part edition will be a very tactical guide. So if you want to start transform your operation right after every episode, apply that, etc., we will send templates, samples, as well as handout at the end of the webinar so you can start applying with your own business. So please stay through till the end. Now, let's dive in. So let's start with the reality that a lot of us live in, right? You're scaling fast. There are more people, more work, more tools. That's where the clarity starts missing. So people in your team start to ask like, who owns what? Who make the decision on this? Who needs to know about like this? So without a clear way, a clear approach to answer it, things store in your organization. Works get duplicate, or works like nobody touch the task because they think that someone else is on it, etc. So this is what we call role fog. This is exactly where our common language, setting a common language can be a game changer. Okay, I'm sharing the screen right now, and I hope everyone can see the screen. If you don't automatically see the screen, there will be a tab next to a webinar tab where you can click and you can see the slide that I'm sharing right now. Okay, so that role fog, if you experience it in some form or sense in your organization, this is where this webinar can be helpful. So we talk about one of many simple framework to introduce a common language about who owns what, right? It's not a buzzword. It's not really like a framework, but it's just a tool, a very simple tool to help team move and have clarities on like who doing what. So RACI, very simple and straightforward. It's responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. It's talk about different role that people, a person that involved in a task might have. So let's break it down a bit because there are some confusion here in application. So responsible and accountable sound a bit similar, right? So responsible is a doer who have the hands on the task, who does the work. Accountable have a bit So like the word, have the accountability. They are the outcome owner. They are the final decision maker. And there will be only one accountable person per task. Consulted and informed also easily to get mixed, but it's more explicit. So consulted is someone that you need to check before you move. They usually gives input, or they usually have some information that benefits to the person who do the work. Whereas informed is someone who needs to stay in the loop, who needs updates. So quickly before we move on, right? So this RACI, I think probably a lot of operations practitioner in the room today, we familiar with this. So there is a cheat code for that I can share. RACI can be transformed in a much like explicit way for SME, which is do, own, advise, and know. Who need to do this? Who will own this? Who need to advise about it, and who need to know about this? Okay. Let's talk a bit about when we apply, how we make it. We will have some example, and we will have some guidance in terms of principle for you to apply it in a very, very practical manners, and really like embed the essence, the soul of like RACI. So let's talk about the core rules or what you should do. There are a few things. First principle is that every task had only one A, because the person who need to own the outcome will need to only be one, no overlap. Second principle is that at least one responsible. So at least one person. There must be someone who do the job, right? Third principle is that don't overuse C&I. Keep it very tight, very light, because too many cooks can slow the kitchen down. And last but not least, the tips to apply it is that when you build a task, when you apply it to a task, right, you use verb, not label. So for example, if you have a task to identify like who own it or who responsible for it, don't put it as like deck for client. But for example, like create deck for client or send deck to client for sign off, etc. So start with a verb, very clear. So the idea of this is that the clarity of the ownership is to remove ambiguity, is to create confidence in execution. And this isn't about micromanaging. It's about making ownership very explicit, clear lane in your organization. So in terms of like applying it, right? Let's talk what not to do. So of course, like because of the principle of this, so one, don't have multiple A's on one task. Two, don't try to fill every box in the matrix. C, don't overuse like C&I. And last but not least, and this is very important, don't ratio your whole org chart. So this is very important, and I want to like stress this a bit. RACI works when it's applied at the task or workflow level. It's not for org chart. It's not for job description. It's not for you to assign the role in terms of like job description or org charts, but it's for task. So when you start, whether or not you just start out or you already like have multiple projects, have the way to assign different role, whether or not you want to apply like RACI or apply like any way of assigning role that your organization already have, don't try to map out the entire org chart or refer to their job description, but to work on jobs, on tasks, on workflow level only. So that's the few key principle, right? So specifically on RACI, when you apply it, how do you see that is like applied across your team? So here, we build a simple like plug and play checklist. It's employ all the key principle that I mentioned earlier. But if you like start out, you can use it, you can print this, and you can do the checklist throughout the process that you apply. And this is for raw clarity implementation, not necessarily RACI. But if you use RACI, if you later we introduce in Rework, there's even a much more simpler framework or like language. You can also like apply this. This is more on the how, on the process of like how to make it like be implemented, right? So when you see it, when you see this checklist, right? It's very simple. Like first identify the use case, and just remember it work for task or workflow. So you choose some recurring or very important like workflow or projects, and then you apply it. You list out, you map out, start small, and use verbs. Now, for the phase 2 onwards, when you start to build, I think just like one key tips is that keep it visible and editable. Editable is very like important, right? So you make it live, because this is not something that like you documented it and everyone need to refer to it like a policy or like an SOP. This is the tool, the way of like looking and making, executing a job or a task really fast, efficient, and with clarity. So you need to make it live. What does it mean by live is that it's embedded into the execution. It's live somewhere that you can quickly refresh it, you can quickly review on it, and then you can see where it works and where it doesn't work. So that is all about like after you assigning the role, that is phase 3 and phase 4, is that you test, you use it, and you improve it. You continue to make it lightweight. You continue to make it like repeatable across, for example, across project or across like workflows that you are working within your organization. And you keep editing and improving it. Okay, so that's a bit fast. I will pause here a bit. So let's like everything sink in. That's everything that I want to share about like RACI. On our website, we also have an article details like a lot about like history and principle and how to apply it, and also template for you to apply RACI. But on the scope of the webinar, that's what I want to share. A few key tips and few key things for you to remember about RACI. Now, RACI is a very, very old, it's actually like dated since like 1970s. It still hold the value and hold it like own merits. So that's how we see it's applied in a lot of companies. So what I just shared like in the first section. Now let's come to the second section, which is RACI in action, right? How we see companies similar to like your size and your operations apply RACI, and what is a modern like role assignment look like. So there will be like 2 case study that I want to share with you today. So the first case study is project-based company. So the example that I shared today is a creative agency with multiple projects running at the same time and multiple clients that they are managing. So the workflow that we will look at today is the client onboarding. So it's all about like the discussing the contract, the scope building, etc., and then onboard the client, right? So this is the way, this is a reality. So there are some memes here. You can see it's like the project plan and the project reality. It's very different. The approval, the change like coming in and out a lot, and the clarity start like losing. So if you are a project-based company in the room, let's check if this sounds something like your operation right now. So let's look into the workflow, right? Client onboarding has scheduled kickoffs, draft proposal, collect client access, and then final signs off. And then who's doing like each of these tasks, right? Like schedule, kick off, you have like anyone from like operations, project management, or account. And usually it's like get delays, like need to have like everyone on the same schedule. Nobody shows like who's responsible for like, for example, like schedule the kickoff, communicate with the clients, have the sign off on like what date is like important, etc. Or like, for example, like for draft proposal, right? Sometimes it's sales, sometimes it's like project management, the project manager also like revise, the boss of the project manager or sales leads also revise and have the say. So it creates duplicated work. And unclear which is the final version. For example, like collect client assets. Usually it's like the account person, but sometimes it's coming from like different team as well. And clients get annoyed by a lot of like notification or like running around and around. So these are some symptoms, right? If you have one is no clear ownership per task. If you have tasks that no one own or no one do or like team forget about it, if you have duplicated effort or you have back and forth approval, or for example, at review, there's some like blaming or like pointing finger of like who actually responsible for like this error to happen, etc. If you have like these all of the symptoms or some of the symptoms in the way that you manage your project right now, that is where maybe you can apply RACI. So this is what we see the company apply RACI, right? So it's also those tasks, but in terms of like roles, we have responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed, very clear lanes. So for example, schedule kickoff, the one who own the outcome of it and make sure that it happens is a project manager. But the one who responsible and actually get the work done is ops coordinator. And the other one, like account or sales, is consulted, for example. So, and then, or like for draft proposal, the one who own the final like outcome of the proposal is account lead, and the one who do it is sales executives. So what you see here on the left-hand side, right, is clarity and ownership. So everyone know their lanes and know their exact role, how they contribute to each of the tasks. It has clear single owner, and this is like the principle that I mentioned earlier, right? Each task will have one and only one accountable, cannot leave blank. And what you see in terms of results is that fewer delays, smoother hands-off, and trust improves within teams. If you have this live on some tools, for example, like Rework, Jira, Asana, etc., you can actually check like how fast it is and how it changed from before to after, how's the efficiency like improve and how smoother the handoffs and the delay got like eliminated. So that is the example of a very like specific process in a very specific company that you see here, right? So what we can take away from it. So it's the same team, it's the same tools, but very clearer lanes. So from you go from the lab decisions by committees or by a group of people there's confusions, there are delay, it will translate into every task has one clear aim. Every task has at least one responsible. And then you can build a workflow on it. So jobs start to like move along without like going back and forth, and it's not linear. So final takeaway is that you only have to do it once and you reuse it many times. So this is the kind of like the essence and the principle of like making your company or your operation scalable, lean and scalable, right? You introduce the language one. Of course, you keep like improving it, but you introduce one, you introduce the principle one, and then it's applied across project, and it start to build like a common language. That's how you standardize it and you make it scalable. Okay. Let's hold on a bit here. Now, this is what you see, right? In this process: responsible, accountable, consulted, informed, and it still looks very like maybe like a bit like bureaucratic, a bit like complex. Like I only have like a company with like 50 people, 60 people, have a lot of tasks, a lot of projects. I cannot do this, like cannot fill this like for every task. And we understand it. Sometimes like RACI apply well at the corporate level, enterprise level, for example, like when you have like big teams, big projects, a lot of people like coming in, a lot of different team and cross-functional joining in one project, then you probably need like the whole RACI one, right? But how to make it even simpler? That very like modern company, for example, tech company or SME applying it today. So this is a new or like a lightweight RACI version. Let's come to the case study number 2, which is the lightweight RACI rework style. So for the one who in the room that currently our clients, probably you are familiar with this already, but let me share with you a bit about what's embedded in rework tool. And you can some other tools, if you use other tools, for example, like Asana or like Notion to manage the operation, etc. For those who not using Rework, it's really not embedded in the tools, but you can do it like outside in terms of the way how you use the tool, right? But let me share a bit about how Rework do it. So we do even a more lightweight than RACI, right? We only have 2 roles. One is assignee, which is a doer, the responsible for the task, and the follower for a certain task or job. And this person will have like notification and can put comments and can like advise at any time or at any point. And the accountable is usually implied by the team or the person who is the project lead. So who owns the workflow or who owns the project or who owns the certain like part of the job. So that's how we like simplify it and we embed it on the tool. So every task, every for example, the first one you can see here is on project apps, is built for task and project management, right? You can see that every task that created, there is assignee and there are followers. Depends on how you construct the notification. It's usually set up that if there is any change or especially change in the status, it will send to the manager who is the accountable, and it will update all the followers as well. So it's already built in. A person just need to, for example, the accountable can just like create the task, assign it to the person who like do it, and then everyone will get update based on this like all those principles that I already shared with you. The second example is the workflow app that you see below. Workflow is for workflow management. So if you have the different stage of how you handle the job and different handover, right? So for example, this example is about the workflow of reporting and fixing the bug on tech product. So if you had that workflow that you manage job like throughout the stage, you probably use this tool. And in this tool, we also have that like throughout the workflow, right? You will have follower who follow, who need to inform in the whole workflow. And you will have like each of the stage, you will have the assignee or stage worker or the one who responsible for the job. So for example, like report the bug, there will be one person in charge of it. Receive the report, make the plan and fixing time, fixing the bug, testing, etc. There will be few steps after that, but you get the idea. The role here is very like explicitly and it's already embedded. You can just like plug the people in, all the notification, all the reminder, and later all the reports about productivity and how the productivity improved within your organization will all be recorded and visible. So, so that's it. That's the version of like rework style. So you can see that like we skip the big charts. There is no like 4-column charts. We just bake it into the product so that when you plan your project and task on rework, it's baked into every task. So that's like lightweight RACI, right? It's through lightweight RACI in all of its essence. It's embedded into execution. It's not like just like some document stand somewhere in your like operations org chart or your operations like document, but it's very like live and have great clarities if it live with the execution. So this is a final note, right? If you are on Notion or Asana or Google Sheets, if you operate not with a tool, remember that if you want to apply a more role clarity and collaborate better, you need to find a way to make it live on some tool and bake it into execution. So it should not like live separately with execution. So that's where a, a small and medium business can win, right? When it start to like be murky, be foggy, you need to work really hard on reduce friction, not increasing governance. It's never about like managing or micromanaging. It's not about governance, but it's about reduce friction and improve clarity and transparency. So here you can see that like using Rework or other tool or platform is very helpful in terms of like standardize the language, standardize like how you're going to apply and scale up. Okay, so let's pause here and recap a bit, right? Summary. The key principle of it is RACI isn't a theory or a framework per se. It's a clarity tool. Use this tool widely and apply it like wisely also in your organization. So first is 1A only. What it means by that is that only one person who owns the outcome. Second is at least 1 hour, that someone must do it. Third, keep C and I are very limited. Like if you want to reduce the bureaucracy, this is where you can design it. You make it light. You only involve people who really add value into the workflow or into a job or into a task. Fourth core principle is start with a workflow. Start with a recurring one. Bake it into the execution of the task or the job, but don't RACI the whole org charts. But start like right where it's like create the most confusion for your team right now, or where it's like occur the uh, back and back and forth, like for example approval or change, etc. Start from there. And last but not least, bake it into your tools. Have some tools, not only like template, but tools like, for example, like Rework and other tool to make sure that it lives with the execution. And of course, like throughout the time that you execute and implement it, you revisit it with your team as the team evolves, right? So when the roles are clear, people will move faster, like traffic and lanes, right? And this is what it's really about. It's about speed, it's about trust, it's about ownership. Okay, so we go through all of the principle and the example very fast, very efficient today. So let me hold a bit here and then let's open it up. Uh, let's see what part of your work today will need more clarities, or any example like from your team that the ownership get muddy a bit. Drop your question or even like share, raise hand, and we will like turn the mic on for you to share. Let's make it a very like practical workshop. From this time, I want to leave space for you to ask question or to bring your real use case for applying RACI or for role clarity, so we can tackle it together, right? Okay, let's jump in. Let's talk it out. Okay, there is one question that I received. Do you usually have the overall RACI even one clear A only, like for the whole onboarding workflow, or only per task? Um, if it's a work, so basically you apply it on task level. That's like the easiest way to do. Uh, because like one task will have like clear outcome. Even in workflow, right? If you're familiar with how we construct workflow app, or if you use other workflow app, I believe that they will have the same principle, is that each of the stage will have its own outcome as well. Not the whole workflow. Whole workflow will have like the final outcome, but each of the stage will have like small like output of that stage that will be hand over as well. So that means that each stage can have like the owner of that stage or that job or that task, and then the one who responsible for it as well. Is it usually the case that accountable is the manager of responsible? Great question. It's usually the case, but it's not like that all the time. So in many cases, the accountable is someone who uh, response the accountable is own the outcomes, and they will have the decision making authority, and ultimately will hope like for the outcome to happen. So that's often a manager or a team lead. But this is the nuances, whether or not they are the direct manager of the one who like do the job, then it's not always the case, although that is might be majority. Because in the flat team or startup, or very like a flat company, like a tech company, for example, right? Accountable might just be the one who more senior person on that specific task that have the authority, not the direct manager, because there will be a lot of like cross-functional work, right? Accountable might be from another team altogether who own the outcomes, or responsible might come from like the team that like be the best person who do it. Let's say marketing is responsible for launch timing. Like they will like make the timeline, they will like communicate with different people, etc. But product team is accountable and own the outcomes of shipping all the feature, etc. for the launch timing. So I think that to this question, like key thing is that don't stop thinking in like who team, what team, who is a direct manager. Don't start in the org charts, but just ask who owns the final result of this task. When you think of it that way, then you can very easily find the accountable person. Mm, let me check the Q&A as well. Who do you recommend to be the assignee? The responsible person or the accountable person? Thanks, Mark. Uh, if you refer to Rework or other tool, that who should be the assignee for the task is usually the responsible person, because that's the one who do the work and who will like finish and change the status into done or change the results of it for it to be approved. Whereas accountable person is usually the one who own the outcome. Let's say like in project management, right? Accountable is usually the one who own that project, like be the project owner, or in workflows, right? It's usually the highest accountable person for the whole workflow is the workflow owners. Or in each of the stage, it's usually not the stage worker, but it's usually the stage owner. So stage owner is accountable, whereas stage worker is responsible. What's other framework aside from RACI? What we introduce is another like derivatives or another improvement or like lightweight. For example, in Rework, we only have like doer, like assignee and follower, right? There will be like others way of thinking as well, but I think it's all the different version of RACI. RACI is actually a very comprehensive one for you to manage like a task level, a project level already. Okay, great question. Any question coming from the team? Any question in terms of like, let's really crack this out after today webinar, it will all clear to you like ratio or any way of like looking at raw assignment, demystify it, right? Or you bring your operations, like your operational case. If you have like struggle in terms of like cannot like apply ratio or like raw assignment, let us know. Okay, there is one question sending through the registration form, which is we are a company, we are an agency that have both project-based and functional team. How do we apply RACI differently in projects versus teams? So this is a very great question. Let's see. In project-based teams, there is one key difference is that role shifts per projects. So it's not like very fixed and stable like in functional team. So RACI is used per project or per workflow and ready to update it in real time. Whereas in functional team, like for example, HR, marketing, the work is more stable, right? Role-based. So when you might apply the RACI in ongoing workflows, like hiring, performance review, and campaign execution. So it's different entry points, and one is entry points and second is review time. So in my suggestion for project based, reset RACI every time, or like review it based on how you update the way you operate projects. Whereas for functional team, the entry point is that you establish one and you keep running it, review, or maybe I suggest like quarterly. There's one question from Christian. What do you recommend for startup with 15 team members? Wow, that's still like a size where is the communication start to like overload. From my experience, under 10 people, you can manage everything through chats, right? But more than 10 people, the communication and the workflow start to like mixing with each other. 15 people, great size to use just rework. Like use rework. You just put assignee to do like certain jobs, and the person who create that task is a accountable one. Similar if you use, for example, Asana or Notion, etc. Right? The let's say if you use like Asana or Monday, each row you will add like one column of assignee and the status, for example. In Notion, you also like create that table and keep it very light like that. Keep it very light, like how Rework like build it. You only need accountable, responsible, and anyone like need to like be updates about that. Like just follow that simple route. Okay. Any more questions from the team? Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so I think that's it. A lot of questions that has been tackled. If you have any final question, please send in, else we will start like wrapping up the webinar today. So before we wrap up, right, we hope that you will continue the conversation within your organization, within your project teams, or within your leadership teams. Start the conversation, start making the change to become more efficiency with more clarity and transparency. Start reworking like the way that it's right now it hurts your operation. So for those who are interested in talking to us, whether or not to see, whether you want to see a demo or you want to discuss potential changes, you want to discuss potential like project, etc., whether or not you are current Rework customer or the one who like interested in seeing the solution and need a sounding board, right? We are always up for it. We're putting up the poll right now. You will see on the screen. Just drop a yes, like simply just like click on yes, and we will be in touch. So thank you for joining us today. if you're interested in applying this concept, we encourage you to check out our handout and checklist and samples that we send after the webinar. Uh, Again, thank you so much for your time. And this webinar brought to you by Rework, a business operation platform, helping you manage work, CIM, people, and other domains. So we're really glad that you came to webinar today, and then we will see you in the next episode next month very soon. Thank you so much.